I still remember the way my dad placed that envelope on the table. Not gently, not like a request, like a bill, like something overdue. We were sitting in the living room, the TV humming in the background. My mom scrolling through her phone like nothing serious was about to happen. Then Dad slid the envelope toward me and said, "Your sister's wedding expenses, you need to handle this." I actually blinked. "Handle what?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. My mom did, casual, almost bored. "Pay for it, obviously." I laughed under my breath because surely this was a joke. It wasn't. Dad tapped the envelope like he was tapping a calculator. I opened it. And my stomach dropped. $20,000, venue, catering, decorations, photography, deposits already marked paid, and the rest highlighted like deadlines. I looked up slowly. "Why am I seeing this?" Dad's face didn't change. "Because you're the only one who can afford it." My chest tightened. "So that means I'm responsible?" My mom sighed, annoyed. "Don't make this difficult, it's your sister's big day." And my sister, she was sitting right there, quiet. Not embarrassed, not uncomfortable, just waiting, like this was normal, like this was my role. I swallowed hard. "I wasn't asked," I said calmly. "I was told." Dad's voice sharpened instantly. "We are your parents. You should be happy to help." Help, that word. It always sounded sweet until you realized it was being used like a leash. This wasn't help. This was obligation dressed up as love. I looked down at the expenses again. They had already planned everything, assuming I'd pay. No discussion, no respect, just assumption. "I need time to think," I said. Mom scoffed. "There's nothing to think about. You're not struggling, you live comfortably. Why are you acting like this is a burden?" And there it was, the unspoken rule. If I was doing okay, then my life was public property. My success wasn't mine, it was theirs to assign. I turned to my sister. "Did you know about this?" She hesitated, then nodded. "They said you'd take care of it." That sentence was like a slap, not "Are you okay with this?" Not "Thank you," just "You'll take care of it." Like I was a credit card with legs. That night I didn't argue, I didn't refuse, I didn't agree, I just went to my room and sat in silence. And for the first time in years I asked myself something ugly. When did my hard work become their entitlement? The next morning breakfast was quiet, forks clinking, coffee pouring. Then Dad asked casually, "So when will you transfer the money?" I took a slow sip of tea. "I won't." Silence. My mom's head snapped up. "What do you mean you won't?" "I mean, I'm not paying for the wedding." My sister's eyes widened like I'd slapped her. "Are you serious right now?" Dad's voice rose. "This is selfish?" And I surprised even myself when I said, "No, this is a boundary." That word landed like a grenade. Boundary, they hated that word because boundaries meant I wasn't automatically available anymore. My mom leaned forward, voice tight. "We already told people you were covering it." I blinked. "That was your mistake." Her face flushed. "You're embarrassing us." Dad slammed his hand on the table. "In this family, we support each other." "I agree," I said evenly. "Support is asked, not ordered." And suddenly the air changed because I wasn't yelling, I wasn't begging, I wasn't crumbling. I was calm. And calm is terrifying when someone is used to controlling you with guilt. Over the next few days, the house became a pressure cooker. Doors closed louder. Whispers stopped when I entered a room. My sister avoided looking at me. But I heard her in the kitchen. "He's doing this on purpose. He wants to ruin everything." And I wanted to scream, "No, you ruined it when you built a wedding on someone else's wallet." But I stayed quiet because silence was stronger. That evening, Dad called me into the living room again. "This isn't how family behaves," he said. "You have the money, your sister doesn't, it's that simple." I nodded slowly. "It's not simple. You're confusing ability with responsibility." Mom crossed her arms. "So you're just going to watch her struggle?" I swallowed. "I'm watching her face the reality of her choices." That hit them. Because reality had always been optional for her. If she fell, I caught her. If she overspent, I covered it. If she panicked, my parents called me, not her, me. And now that habit was gone. Then the calls started, relatives, aunts. "Cousins, why are you being stubborn over money? You're really going to do this to her?" I realized my parents were already rewriting the story, making me the villain. I didn't defend myself. I just said, "This is a family matter." Because explaining yourself to people who benefit from your guilt is a trap. Meanwhile, reality started knocking. The wedding planner called. The venue demanded the next payment. The florist refused to confirm anything without money. And for the first time, my sister had to make those calls herself. I watched panic replace entitlement in real time. One night she knocked on my door, soft, careful. "Can we talk?" She sat down, twisting her fingers. I didn't know they would force you like this." I stared. "I thought you offered." "I didn't." Her voice cracked. "What am I supposed to do now?" And I said quietly, "That's the first real question you've asked." She blinked. "For once, you're asking what you should do, not what I should do." Over the next week, she started changing things, cutting guest lists, canceling decorations, switching venues, downsizing everything. Stuff that should have happened from the start. Dad grew quieter, Mom stopped mentioning it because their pressure wasn't working, and my no was louder than their arguments. One night Dad muttered, "You've changed." And I answered, "I haven't. I just stopped saying yes automatically." A month later, the wedding happened. Smaller, simpler, fewer people, no luxury, no performance. And honestly, it was beautiful, not because it was expensive, but because it was honest. Before the ceremony, my sister came up to me. "You were right," she whispered. "I needed this lesson." I looked at her. "You needed control over your own life." She nodded. "I'm sorry for assuming." This time it felt real. My parents watched from across the room. They looked different, not angry. Not proud, just quiet. I thought saying no would be the hard part. I was wrong. Saying no was just the spark. The fallout was the fire. Because the next morning it wasn't quiet, it wasn't acceptance, it was war. I woke up to my phone vibrating so hard it nearly fell off my nightstand. One missed call, then another, my aunt, my uncle, my cousin who hasn't spoken to me in 5 years, even my grandmother. And my stomach did that cold flip it always does when family gets involved. Because when your parents can't control you directly, they send the crowd. By noon, my mom cornered me in the hallway. Her voice was soft. Dangerously soft. "You know people are talking, right?" I blinked. "Talking about what?" She tilted her head like I was a child pretending not to understand. "About how you're letting your sister suffer." That word, suffer. Like she was starving, like she was homeless, not like she was having a slightly smaller wedding. I felt my jaw tighten. "She's not suffering, she's inconvenienced." My mom's mouth twitched. "I don't see why you're making this about you." There it was. The guilt wrapped in perfume, the way she could turn my boundary into selfishness with one sentence. And for a second I almost cracked, not because she was right. Because she trained me to feel wrong for needing anything. That night I heard my sister crying in the kitchen, big, dramatic sobs, the kind meant to be overheard. I stayed in my room anyway, staring at the ceiling, feeling something ugly crawl up my throat. Because here's the truth nobody wants to admit, I didn't feel proud. I felt sick. I felt like the villain in their story. And part of me, this stupid, hopeful part, still wanted someone to knock on my door and say, "We're sorry. We shouldn't have done that." But nobody did. Instead, the next day, Dad called a family meeting, like I was being summoned to court. We sat in the living room again, same couch, same air, except now it felt different. Like the room itself was holding its breath. Dad leaned forward. "You are going to fix this." Fix, like my sister was a mistake that needed cleaning up. "I'm not fixing it," I said quietly. Dad's nostrils flared. "You're acting like we're asking you to donate an organ." Mom added, "You have the money, you're being difficult on purpose." And my sister finally spoke, her voice sharp. "Do you know how humiliating this is?" I stared at her. "You mean how humiliating it is to plan something you can't afford?" Her face reddened. "No, humiliating that everyone knows my own brother won't help me." And something in me snapped, not loud, not explosive, just sharp. "You keep saying help," I said, "but help is when someone asks. Help is when someone says please. This wasn't help, this was expectation." Dad slammed his hand down. "In this family, we don't abandon each other." I laughed. One short bitter sound. "Really?" Because suddenly years started flashing in my head, all the times I'd been abandoned quietly. My graduation dinner where my sister got the speech. My promotion where Dad said, "That's nice," then asked about her dating life. The Christmas where I got socks while she got plane tickets. I swallowed hard. "You don't get to lecture me about abandonment." Silence. Mom blinked fast, Dad's voice lowered. "So what is this? What are you trying to prove?" and my throat burned because the answer was messy. I wasn't trying to prove anything, I was trying to survive. I'm trying to prove that I'm not a wallet, I said. I'm not an obligation, I'm your son, not your backup plan. My mom's eyes went glassy. Oh, don't be dramatic. Classic, deny the wound by calling it drama. 3 days later, my sister posted a photo online, a black and white quote, something like, "Some people only show up when it benefits them." No name, but everyone knew. My inbox filled with strangers' opinions, family friends, old classmates, people who suddenly cared. She's your sister. You'll regret this one day. And I sat there reading them, feeling that familiar childhood helplessness, like no matter how grown I was still the villain for saying no. I almost sent the money, I swear, one weak moment. I even opened my banking app, my finger hovered. And then I thought, if I pay, nothing changes. I just teach them that guilt works, that silence works, that pressure works. I closed the app, hands shaking, like I just stepped off a ledge. That weekend, the wedding planner showed up at the house. Actually showed up, standing on the porch with her clipboard. My mom's face turned bright red. Because now it wasn't private, now it was visible. The planner asked politely, "Hi, I'm just confirming the next payment." My sister froze, Dad's jaw clenched, and my mom turned slowly toward me, like this was my fault. I almost laughed, because the absurdity of it, they created the lie, and they were furious I wasn't sustaining it. Dad hissed through his teeth, "Go to your room." I stared at him. No, that word again, small, deadly. My sister whispered, "Please, just do it." And for the first time, I saw something underneath her entitlement. Fear, real fear, not of losing flowers, of losing the illusion that someone would always catch her. Her voice cracked. "I don't know how to do this without you." And my chest hurt, because that was honest. That was the first honest thing she'd said in years. I softened just slightly. "You're supposed to learn," I whispered. That's how the wedding ended up changing. Smaller venue, cheaper dress, fewer guests. And the day of my sister looked beautiful, not because it was extravagant, because it was real. She came to me before walking down the aisle, her hands trembling. "I hated you," she admitted. "I blamed you, but I get it now." She swallowed hard. "I didn't want a wedding, I wanted to feel taken care of." That sentence hit harder than any accusation because I understood. We were raised in the same house, just different roles. She was protected, I was used. After the ceremony, my dad stood near the parking lot, watching, not speaking. He looked older somehow, smaller, and my mom finally approached me. Her voice quieter, not sharp anymore. "You really weren't going to do it?" "No," I said, "I wasn't." She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time, and I realized something devastating. They never thought I could leave the role, they thought I'd stay forever. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, no yelling, no guilt calls, just silence. And for the first time, the silence didn't feel lonely. It felt peaceful. This wasn't revenge, it wasn't cruelty, it was honesty, it was adulthood. It was the first time I chose myself without apology. Because the moral isn't, don't help family. The moral is, family doesn't get to demand your life just because they share your blood. Love isn't obligation. Love isn't guilt. Love doesn't come with invoices. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop enabling the people who never learn to stand on their own. Saying no doesn't make you heartless. It makes you free, because the truth is, I thought it was over. I thought the wedding would be the end. But I didn't realize my parents weren't done, not even close. 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail, official, stamped. And the first line made my blood run cold. "We are requesting financial reimbursement for damages caused by your refusal." Yeah, they tried to bill me for saying no, and that's when things got ugly. I thought once the paperwork stopped, the noise would too. It didn't, it just changed shape. The first call came from my aunt. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask what happened. She said, "Your parents are devastated. They don't understand why you do this to them." I stared at the wall while she spoke, nodding even though she couldn't see me. "That's interesting," I said finally. "They understood it pretty clearly when they filed the lawsuit." Silence. Then she sighed, "They're embarrassed." There it was, not remorse, not accountability, embarrassment. Within a week, the story spread, not the truth, a version, a softer one. I was cold. Successful but bitter. unwilling to help family. Cousins stopped liking my posts. Old friends sent cautious messages. Some didn't reach out at all. It felt familiar, like childhood, like being misunderstood and expected to absorb it quietly. But something was different this time. I didn't explain, I didn't defend. I let the silence do what it always does. It made people uncomfortable. My parents tried one last move. They invited me to dinner, neutral tone, careful wording. "I think we should talk face to face," my mother said. I almost said no. But there was a part of me, the part that had always wanted closure, that said yes. We met at a restaurant halfway between our houses. Public, neutral ground. They were already seated when I arrived. My father looked older. My mother's hands shook slightly around her glass. We ordered. No one touched the menus. Finally, my father cleared his throat. "We never meant to hurt you," he said. I waited. "That doesn't sound like an apology," I replied. My mother flinched. "We did what we thought was necessary," she said. "You always landed on your feet." That sentence unlocked something in me. A memory, me at 22 working 2 jobs, me wiring money home. Me being told, "You're strong, you can handle it." I nodded slowly. "You didn't think I'd push back," I said. They didn't deny it. "You sued me," I continued, "because you believed shame would work faster than truth." My father looked down. My mother whispered, "We didn't think you'd take it this far." I leaned back. "That's the problem," I said. "You never thought I'd do anything except absorb." There was a long pause. Finally, my mother said, "What do you want from us?" I considered the question carefully. "I don't want anything," I said. "That's the point." That scared them. People who rely on leverage don't know what to do when you remove yourself from the equation. We paid our checks separately. I stood up first. My mother reached for my hand. I stepped back, not out of anger, out of clarity. "I'm not cutting you off," I said. "I'm stepping away. There's a difference." They didn't follow me out. They didn't chase. That was the confirmation I needed. The extended family kept talking. I kept living, and something unexpected happened. The version of me they'd depended on stopped existing. I slept better, not perfectly, but better. I stopped checking my phone compulsively. I stopped rehearsing arguments that would never happen. One afternoon, I realized I hadn't thought about them all day. That felt bigger than winning any court case. Claire reached out once more. "Just a short message. I hope you're okay." I stared at it for a long time, then replied, "I am." It was true. Months passed. The story lost interest. New gossip replaced old. That's how it always goes, but my life stayed quiet, steady. Mine. I learned something important through all of this. Not every ending needs fireworks. Not every boundary needs an explanation. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop playing the role people assigned you and walk away without apologizing. They didn't lose me because I was cruel. They lost me because I stopped being convenient. And I finally understand this. Family isn't who sues you to keep control. Family isn't who counts your success as a resource. Family is who doesn't punish you for saying no. I don't hate them. I don't wish them harm. I just don't belong to them anymore. And that peace, that quiet, that's mine. The court summons came 2 weeks later, not a text, not another guilt call from my mother, not even my sister crying in my inbox. This time it was official. A thick envelope stamped with the county seal. I opened it standing in my kitchen, barefoot, half awake, coffee still dripping into my mug, and by the second line, my stomach went completely hollow. Plaintiffs, my parents, reason, financial abandonment of family responsibility. I read it once, then again, then a third time, like maybe the letters would rearrange themselves into something less insane. They were suing me because I refused to pay for my sister because I said no. My own parents had taken me to court like I was a stranger who owed them rent. I sat down slowly. The paper shook in my hands, not from fear, from disbelief. From that familiar, sick realization that they weren't upset about the wedding, they weren't grieving the fallout, they weren't heartbroken. They were furious that I finally stopped obeying. I called my father immediately. He answered like he'd been waiting. "So you got it," he said, his voice calm, cold, almost satisfied. "You're actually suing me?" "You left us no choice," he replied. "Family helps family." I laughed, sharp and ugly. "That's your argument?" My mother's voice chimed in. "You have money, she doesn't. This is selfish." Selfish, that word again, the favorite weapon, the one they used any time I wasn't convenient. I swallowed hard. "You're not asking for help. You're trying to force compliance." My father snapped, "You owe this family." And something in me went still, that quiet moment when you realize they don't love you, they love what you provide. The next morning, I sat in a lawyer's office, a woman in her 50s, sharp eyes, calm voice. She read the lawsuit in silence, then she looked up. "They actually filed this?" "Yes," I said, my voice sounded strange. Like it belonged to someone else. She leaned back. "This won't hold up." Relief hit me for half a second, then she added, "But since they started this, you have the chance to end it properly." I blinked. "What do you mean?" She tapped the papers. "If they want to bring family finances into court, then everything becomes visible. Who signed what? Who benefited? Who used who?" A strange, cold calm settled into my chest. Because suddenly I remembered things they probably prayed I forgot. Old loans, my name on paperwork when I was barely 20, transfers I made just this once. Times my parents said, "Put it in your name temporarily, just to help us out. You're the responsible one." Back then, I thought it was normal. Now, under legal light, it looked like something else, something darker, something intentional. That night, I pulled out a box from my closet, stuff I'd kept without knowing why. Old bank slips, screenshots, signed forms, messages, requests. Promises. I spread everything across my dining table, 3 piles, what they were accusing me of, what I could prove, what they hoped I'd forgotten. The third pile was the thickest. The next morning, I emailed it all to my lawyer. She called me an hour later. Her voice was different now, low, serious. "This is bigger than a wedding invoice." I swallowed. "How?" She paused. "They didn't just guilt you emotionally. They used you financially for years." Then she asked one question. "Do you want this to end quietly or completely?" I didn't hesitate. "Completely?" Because this was never just about my sister. It was about a lifetime pattern, a lifetime of being the backup plan, the wallet, the fixer. The invisible one until money was needed. Court day came fast. I walked in calm, not confident, just done. My parents sat across the room stiff and polished, like they were attending church. My mother wore pearls. My father wore the same suit he wore to weddings and funerals. My sister sat between them, eyes down, not brave enough to look at me. They really thought the judge would shame me. They thought the courtroom would pressure me back into obedience. Then my lawyer stood up and everything shifted. She didn't raise her voice, she didn't accuse, she presented. Bank records, dates, signatures, a timeline, every transfer. Every bill I covered, every loan taken in my name. The judge flipped through the pages slowly, his face unreadable. My father's jaw tightened, my mother's lips trembled, my sister went pale. Then the judge asked, "Is this accurate?" My father cleared his throat. "Your Honor, this was family understanding." My lawyer slid printed text messages forward, messages where I asked for repayment, messages where I said I was uncomfortable, messages where they promised just a few more months. "We'll fix it later. We'll pay you back." And then nothing, silence, years of silence. The courtroom went dead quiet because suddenly this wasn't about me refusing to help. This was about them using me. The judge leaned forward. "So you filed this lawsuit to pressure her into paying a debt that is not legally hers, while evidence shows you financially relied on her for years." My mother spoke quickly. "We're her parents, we sacrificed." The judge cut her off. "Sacrificing as parents does not entitle you to your adult child's income." That sentence hit like thunder. My father's face actually twitched. Like he'd never heard someone say no to him with authority. But the judge wasn't finished. He scheduled a full financial audit, a deeper review, which was the last thing my parents wanted, because now everything would be examined. Not just today, the past, the decade, the truth. Outside the courtroom, my mother grabbed my arm, her nails dug in. "Why are you doing this?" Her voice cracked. I gently removed her hand. "You sued me," I said quietly. "I'm just answering properly." For the first time in my life, they looked nervous around me, not because I was loud, because I was prepared. The audit took weeks, and it was brutal. Old accounts, forgotten loans. Debt rolled over quietly, my name appearing where it shouldn't, interest piling up. My sister's debt wasn't even fully hers, some of it was in my name, from years ago, hidden, ignored, dumped onto me. They weren't asking me to help. They had already tied me to it. Final court date. The judge summarized calmly, "This lawsuit was filed to pressure the defendant into paying debt that is not legally hers. Evidence shows a pattern of financial misuse by the plaintiffs." Case dismissed. Then, the part they never imagined. The judge approved my counterclaim. They were ordered to repay me, not emotionally, legally, with interest. My mother didn't cry, she froze. My father didn't argue, he couldn't. My sister whispered, "Oh my God," like she was finally seeing the full cost of being the favorite. Outside the courthouse, my sister tried to speak. "I didn't know," I stopped her gently. "This was never about your wedding. It was about ending this." She looked at me like a child. "What happens now?" I exhaled slowly. "Now you grow up. Now I stop funding your life. Now I finally live mine." I walked away without yelling. Without revenge speeches. Because the revenge wasn't screaming. The revenge was I stopped protecting them from consequences. They tried to drag me into court to force me back into a role. Instead, they gave me the perfect place to finally break free. Sometimes family doesn't break your heart, they invoice it. They sue you for refusing to be used. And the hardest lesson is this. Just because someone shares your blood doesn't mean they're entitled to your sacrifice. The real freedom wasn't winning in court. It was realizing I never owed them my life. I only owed myself the truth. And sometimes, the people we lose are the ones who were never really on our side.